Yes, polyvinyl chloride, or PVC, pipe can be used to route speaker and digital visual interface, or DVI, cables and ceilings, but it must be done in accordance with the National Electrical Code, or NEC. Section 300.22c states that raceway, such as the PVC pipe used for electrical conductors, must be listed for the purpose and sized appropriately. Section 300.11 cone states that raceway must be installed in a manner that protects the conductors from physical damage. Section 300.11c2 states that raceway must be securely fastened to the supporting structure. Section 725.56 states that low-voltage communications cables, for example, DVI, can be installed in the same raceway as electrical conductors, but they must be separated by a barrier or sleeve. Here are some installation guidelines. Firstly, use PVC pipe that is listed by Underwriters Laboratories, or UL, or another recognized testing laboratory. Secondly, determine the appropriate pipe size based on the number and size of cables being routed. Thirdly, secure the pipe to the ceiling joists or other supporting structure using straps or screws every 4 to 8 feet. Fourthly, run the electrical and low voltage cables through the pipe, separating them by a barrier or sleeve. Fifthly, seal the ends of the pipe with UL-listed conduit bodies or knockouts. Here are some benefits of using PVC pipe. Firstly, it protects cables from physical damage and environmental hazards. Secondly, it provides a convenient way to bundle and organize cables. Thirdly, it allows for future cable additions or replacements without tearing into the ceiling. Fourthly, it meets NEC requirements for electrical and low voltage cable installations. Always consult with a qualified electrician to ensure proper installation and compliance with local building codes. Use high-quality PVC pipe and fittings to ensure durability and longevity. Consider using flexible PVC conduit for bends or turns in the pipe run. Label the pipe clearly to indicate its contents for future reference. When installing electrical wiring, it's crucial to adhere to the National Electrical Code, or NEC, to ensure safety and compliance. The NEC provides comprehensive guidelines for various aspects of electrical installations, including the types of wiring methods permitted and how they should be implemented. Here's an overview of approved wiring methods. Firstly, rigid metal conduit, or RMC. This is a heavy-duty threaded tubing typically made of steel or aluminum. RMC offers excellent protection against physical damage and is suitable for both indoor and outdoor applications, especially in corrosive environment. Secondly, intermediate metal conduit, or INC. This is a thinner and lighter version of RMC but still provides good protection. IMC is often used in similar applications as RMC but can be more cost-effective. Thirdly, electrical metallic tubing, or EMT. This is a lightweight, unthreaded tubing commonly made of steel or aluminum. EMT is suitable for indoor use in dry locations and is joined using fittings. Fourthly, flexible metal conduit, or FMC. This is a flexible spiral wound tubing used for connecting electrical boxes and equipment. FMC allows for movement and vibration and is often used in short runs. Fifthly, liquid-tight flexible metal conduit, or LFMC. This is a flexible metal conduit covered with a waterproof plastic coating. LFMC is used in wet or damp locations and where flexibility is needed. Sixthly, rigid polyvinyl chloride conduit, or PVC. This is a non-metallic conduit made of PVC. PVC is lightweight, corrosion-resistant, and suitable for underground and direct burial applications. Seventhly, electrical non-metallic tubing, or ENT. This is a flexible corrugated tubing made of plastic. ENT is used in dry locations and concealed within walls, floors, and ceilings. Eighthly, armored cable, or AC. This consists of insulated conductors encased in a flexible metal sheath. AC is commonly used in residential wiring and is suitable for dry locations. Ninthly, metal-clad cable, or MC. Similar to AC but with a heavier gauge metal sheath, MC cable provides greater protection and can be used in various applications, including commercial and industrial settings. Tenthly, non-metallic sheath cable, or NM. This consists of insulated conductors wrapped in a non-metallic sheathing. NM cable is commonly used in residential wiring for branch circuits. 11thly, underground feeder or UF cable. This is a type of NM cable designed for direct burial in the ground. UF cable is moisture resistant and suitable for outdoor applications. Additional considerations include box fill calculations. When installing wiring, it's essential to calculate the box fill to ensure that the electrical boxes are not overcrowded. NEC Article 314.16 provides guidelines for determining the maximum number of conductors, devices, and fittings allowed in a box. Proper support and securing. All wiring methods must be properly supported and secured to prevent stress on the conductors and connections. The NEC specifies the maximum intervals for support based on the type of wiring method used. Grounding and bonding. Grounding and bonding are critical for electrical safety. The NEC requires that all metal enclosures and equipment be properly grounded to provide a path for fault current and minimize the risk of electric shock. Ampacity in conductor sizing. The ampacity of conductors must be appropriate for the circuit they serve. NEC Table 310.15b16 provides ampacity ratings for various types of conductors based on their insulation type and temperature rating. When running low voltage and line voltage wiring, maintaining separation between low voltage such as networking cables and line voltage such as 120 volts or 240 volts alternating current or volts AC wiring is crucial for safety and performance. Here's why. Firstly, minimizing interference. Line voltage wiring can generate electromagnetic interference or EMI, which can disrupt the signals carried by low voltage cables. This interference can degrade network performance, cause data loss, and affect the operation of sensitive electronic equipment. Secondly, preventing damage. Direct contact between low voltage and line voltage wiring can damage the low voltage cables and connected devices. High voltage surges or faults in the line voltage wiring can overload the low voltage circuits, leading to equipment failure and potential safety hazards. Thirdly, ensuring safety. Mixing low voltage and line voltage wiring in the same conduit or enclosure can create a safety hazard for anyone working on the electrical system. Accidental contact with line voltage wiring can result in electric shock or electrocution. Fourthly, code compliance. Electrical codes, such as the NEC, have specific requirements for separating low voltage and line voltage wiring to ensure safety and prevent interference. These codes typically require a minimum separation distance or the use of physical barriers between the two types of wiring. Here are some best practices for separating low voltage and line voltage wiring. Firstly, use separate conduits or raceways. Run low voltage and line voltage wiring in separate conduits or raceways to provide physical separation and minimize the risk of interference. Secondly, maintain distance. When running low voltage and line voltage wiring parallel to each other, maintain a minimum separation distance of at least 12 inches. This distance helps to reduce the amount of EMI that could affect the low voltage cables. Thirdly, use shielded cables. Use shielded low voltage cables to further reduce the risk of EMI. Shielded cables have a conductive layer that blocks electromagnetic interference from external sources. Fourthly, avoid parallel runs. Avoid running low voltage and line voltage wiring parallel to each other for long distances. If parallel runs are necessary, try to minimize the length of the parallel sections. Fifthly, proper grounding. Ensure that all electrical equipment and enclosures are properly grounded to provide a path for fault current and minimize the risk of electric shock. Proper grounding also helps to reduce the amount of EMI generated by line voltage wiring. Sixthly, use barriers or dividers in enclosures or junction boxes where low voltage and line voltage wiring must coexist. Use barriers or dividers to provide physical separation between the two types of wiring. Seventhly, label clearly. Clearly label all low voltage and line voltage wiring to indicate their voltage levels and functions. This helps to prevent accidental contact with line voltage wiring and makes it easier to identify the different types of wiring in the system. When working with speaker wire and DVI cables in a home theater setup, several considerations come into play to ensure optimal performance, safety, and compliance with electrical codes. Here's an overview. Firstly, speaker wire considerations. Speaker wire is used to connect the audio amplifier or receiver to the speakers. Key considerations include wire gauge, impedance matching, and insulation. The gauge of the speaker wire affects its ability to carry the audio signal without significant loss. Lower gauge numbers indicate thicker wires, which can carry more current over longer distances with less resistance. Common speaker wire gauges include 12 gauge, 14 gauge, and 16 gauge. Impedance matching is important to ensure that the speakers and amplifier are compatible. Most home theater speakers have an impedance of 8 ohms, but some may be 4 ohms or 6 ohms. The amplifier should be able to handle the impedance of the speakers to avoid distortion or damage. Speaker wire insulation helps to protect the wires from damage and prevent short circuits. Look for speaker wire with durable insulation that is rated for the intended environment. Secondly, DVI cable considerations. DVI cables are used to transmit video signals from a source device, such as a DVD player or gaming console, to a display device, such as a projector or television. Key considerations include cable length, resolution support, and connector types. The length of the DVI cable can affect the quality of the video signal. Longer cables may experience signal degradation, resulting in a blurry or distorted image. For long cable runs, consider using a DVI extender or active cable. DVI cables support various resolutions, including standard definition, high definition, and ultra high definition. Make sure the DVI cable is capable of supporting the resolution of your source and display devices. DVI cables come with different connector types, including DVI-D, DVI-I, and DVI-A. DVI-D is a digital-only connection, while DVI-I supports both digital and analog signals. DVI-A is an analog-only connection. Thirdly, installation best practices. When installing speaker wire and DVI cables in a home theater setup, follow these best practices. Firstly, plan the layout of your home theater setup before running any wires. Determine the location of the speakers, projector, and other components, and measure the distances between them. Secondly, use cable management. Use cable management accessories such as cable ties, clips, and conduits to keep the wires organized and prevent them from becoming tangled or damaged. Thirdly, avoid sharp bends. Avoid making sharp bends in the speaker wire and DVI cables, as this can damage the wires and affect the signal quality. Fourthly, protect the wires. Protect the wires from physical damage by running them through conduits or cable trays. This is especially important when running wires through walls or ceilings. Fifthly, label the wires. Label the wires with tags or markers to indicate their purpose and destination. This will make it easier to troubleshoot any problems in the future. Sixthly, test the connections. After installing the speaker wire and DVI cables, test the connections to make sure everything is working properly. Use a multimeter to check the continuity of the speaker wire and a video source to test the DVI connection. The NEC provides guidelines for electrical installations in residential and commercial buildings. These guidelines cover various aspects of wiring, including conductor sizing, overcurrent protection, grounding, and bonding. It's important to comply with the NEC to ensure the safety of the electrical system and prevent fires or electrical shocks. Some key NEC requirements for home theater wiring include: firstly, conductor sizing. The conductors used for speaker wire and DVI cables must be sized appropriately for the current they will carry. NEC Table 310.15b16 provides ampacity ratings for various types of conductors based on their insulation type and temperature rating. Secondly, overcurrent protection. The circuits that supply power to the home theater equipment must be protected by circuit breakers or fuses. The overcurrent protection devices should be sized appropriately for the ampacity of the conductors and the load they will serve. Thirdly, grounding. All metal enclosures and equipment in the home theater system must be properly grounded to provide a path for fault current and minimize the risk of electric shock. Fourthly, bonding. All metal parts of the electrical system, including conduit, enclosures, and equipment, must be bonded together to create a continuous electrical path. This helps to reduce the risk of voltage differences and electrical shock. When planning a home theater setup, it's important to consider the placement of electrical outlets to ensure convenient access to power for all the components. Here are some key considerations. Firstly, outlet location. Place electrical outlets near the equipment rack, speakers, projector, and other components to minimize the need for extension cords. Consider the layout of the room and the location of furniture when determining the placement of the outlets. Secondly, dedicated circuits. Consider using dedicated circuits for the home theater equipment to prevent overloading the existing circuits. Dedicated circuits can provide a more stable and reliable power supply for the sensitive electronic components. Thirdly, surge protection. Install surge protectors at the electrical outlets to protect the home theater equipment from power surges and spikes. Surge protectors can help to prevent damage to the equipment and extend its lifespan. Fourthly, grounding. Ensure that all electrical outlets are properly grounded to provide a path for fault current and minimize the risk of electric shock. Fifthly, code compliance. Comply with the NEC requirements for electrical outlets, including the spacing between outlets and the type of outlets required for specific applications. When selecting a projector for a home theater, several factors need consideration to ensure optimal performance and compatibility with the room and other equipment. Here is a breakdown of key aspects. Firstly, resolution. The resolution of the projector determines the level of detail and sharpness of the image. Common projector resolutions include 1920 by 1080, which is full high definition, and 3840 by 2160, which is for ultra high definition. Choose a projector with a resolution that matches the resolution of your source devices and the size of the screen. Secondly, brightness. The brightness of the projector is measured in lumens. A brighter projector is better suited for rooms with ambient light, while a dimmer projector is better suited for dark rooms. Consider the amount of ambient light in your home theater when selecting a projector. Thirdly, contrast ratio. The contrast ratio of the projector is the ratio between the brightest and darkest parts of the image. A higher contrast ratio results in a more detailed and lifelike image. Look for a projector with a high contrast ratio for the best picture quality. Fourthly, throw distance. The throw distance of the projector is the distance between the projector and the screen. The throw distance affects the size of the image. Some projectors have a short throw distance, which means they can be placed closer to the screen, while others have a long throw distance. Fifthly, lens shift and keystone correction. Lens shift and keystone correction are features that allow you to adjust the position of the image on the screen. Lens shift allows you to move the lens horizontally and vertically, while keystone correction corrects the distortion caused by projecting the image at an angle. Sixthly, connectivity. The projector should have the necessary connectivity options to connect to your source devices, such as HDMI, component video, and VGA. Consider the number and type of inputs you need when selecting a projector. Seventhly, lamp life and replacement cost. The lamp life of the projector is the amount of time the lamp is expected to last before it needs to be replaced. Consider the lamp life and replacement cost when selecting a projector. Some projectors use LED or laser light sources, which have a longer lamp life than traditional lamps.